So, I've played Final Fantasy 16 for maybe 9, 10-ish hours. And I've got some thoughts. This is just my thoughts so far on the game. I will, once I've completed the game, I'm going to have a proper review, but this is just first impressions, first 10 hours, and how I feel about the game, because there's been a lot of discussion about this game. Most of what I'm saying here is off the dome. I do have notes in front of me, but most of what I'm saying is just off of these notes. So, let's start with the most controversial part of the game. Combat. I've been enjoying this. So far, I found it to be satisfying, but only against tougher enemies and bosses. Small, like the normal enemies, like the crabs, goblins, etc. I feel as though they just go down a little bit too quickly. They can all be taken down by a singular magic burst combo, for the most part. And so to me, it's, that's a bit too little, I guess. But when you actually go up against a Minotaur, a Gigas, some of these tougher enemies, like the mini-bosses, the big horns, and the bosses, that's where, in my opinion, the game's combat just absolutely shines. The bosses are just so well designed in this regard. Part of the combat is parrying. I felt like this since I played the demo, but parrying isn't... Now, I'm going to say this as clear as possible, because I know some people might take this the wrong way if I just say it and leave it at that. When you hit a parry, it is very satisfying. The game slows down, it really makes you feel good for hitting a parry. However, actually learning the parry window for most attacks in this game is very unsatisfying. I don't think it's actually worth me as a player, someone who's not going to grind this game, right? Someone who's going to play this game 8, 10, 12 hours a day, like grind it like a DMC hardcore player, right? That's not something I'm going to do. When I come up against mini bosses and bosses in general, for a little bit, at the start of a fight, I let them have some attacks off, and I try to parry them. It's just to try and learn. Because as far as I'm aware, parrying is just as it hits you. But I've tried doing that so often, and it just doesn't work. Most of the time that I have parried so far have been complete accidents. Complete and utter accidents. There's, I think, one attack that I've learned to consistently parry, and that's one of the, I think it's the Gigas, the big goblin, and that's it. Another part of like the combat and controls is the game. It's so hard to really talk about this without actually someone experiencing it. If you own a PS5 and want to experience it, you can go into the demo, because I remember it doing it in the demo as well. The game feels like it stores inputs. So, for example, if you try to do the magic burst combo, which is press square, and as your sword hits the enemy, press triangle, you do like a quick magic attack, and then you do square again, and as it hits, blah, blah, that's the magic burst combo. If you do that too quickly, the game... So, multiple times, I've had it feel as though... Because I not panic, but eventually I'm just doing it, and I'll notice that I'm just only doing like the physical attack and no magic. And then I stop, or I take my thumbs away from the face buttons, and then neutral, reset. I start hitting physical again, I'm doing magic. And it's like, what? That doesn't feel good. I don't know if that's intended or if it's a bug, but it just doesn't feel all that great. Exploration, like in the more open areas, so far hasn't been great. I don't see the reason. There's nothing to find. The only thing you'll find is enemies and items, which so far all it has been is potions, high potions, and crafting materials. That is literally it. There's no reason to actually go and explore. And these areas aren't even big, right? Which is fine. That's completely fine. But actually exploring it, you're not finding anything. Where I left off before recording this, there's a little offshoot and there's like a door there. I thought I was be able to open it after doing the piece of story content I just done, but I haven't, so I guess it's later content. Maybe even New Game Plus, I don't know. But so far, there just hasn't been anything to find, and it's kind of disappointing. For example, let's take side quests. They are quite literally just accept, you hold triangle to quote-unquote prioritize the quest, which shows you the markers, and then you just beeline for it and do what the quest is. There's no thinking about it, there's no nuance to it, you just do it. And in these areas, you often find like an offshoot, or at least like a large area, and it's very, very obvious that you are intended to come back later and do like a hunt. I haven't unlocked hunts yet, I don't think, but at the moment, it's very obvious that that's what these larger areas are for. If I find any in my recordings, I'll put some screenshots up of the maps. Going back to side quests, I don't know how many I've done, probably like 6, 7, 8 maybe, somewhere in that area. They just haven't been good. Before release, I can't remember who it was, but one of the developers said that there's 100 total side quests. Boy, if they are all like this, man, I won't give up, because they're not terrible, but they're not great. At the moment, I can remember all the ones I've done. I've done 2 food delivery quests from the same NPC, and the rest have been fetch quests. For example, I went to a town, there was a side quest there. A dude dropped his crystal down a cliff. Okay, so you spend 15 seconds going down. There's a ladder beside him, you go down, you of course go down another ladder and you're in a marsh area. You kill like 4 crabs, get his crystal, you climb back and give it to him, quest done. So the only positive there is that it's quick. It's not like, oh, go to 6 areas away, or like go like a far area away and like kill 25 enemies. I guess that's the only positive, but there's still fetch quests, and I just feel like 100 of these is going to very quickly become tedious. Oh boy, this is a big one. I've seen a lot of talk about this on Twitter. The RPG mechanics, simply so far, all I can say is it's lacking. I'm not going to say there's zero RPG mechanics, because the only real RPG-ness of the game is swapping out your icon abilities. Okay, that's fine, but your stats, meaningless. If they removed like the stat screen, if they removed level up, XP and all that, and just done it hidden, you just wouldn't notice. Nothing would change. Keep the health bar there, but get rid of the number, nothing would change. Get rid of damage numbers, nothing changes. And I understand. The game is more focused on being a character action game. That's fine. That is completely fine. I'm not going to knock the game for that. However, I did want the game to be more of an RPG. As much as I don't like Final Fantasy VII Remake, one thing that I really, really, really did like about that was the materia. For example, I can take the elemental materia, slot it into my weapon, and link it with fire, and I'll do fire damage. And if I wanted to, I could put elemental into my armor or accessory and link it with fire, and I'll take reduced fire damage. Just little things like that would have gone a very long way in 16. And I get it, you're constantly swapping between different elements. Like Phoenix is fire, Garuda is wind. I get that. And so it would be hard to balance it. Also, Final Fantasy has never punished the player. So if I was to hit, in like Final Fantasy X, if I was to hit an enemy, like a lightning, I can't remember the element wheel for that game. If I was to hit a fire enemy with thunder, which is an element it's neutral to, I'm not punished for that. I just do slightly less damage. You know, having actual stats, damage types, and weaknesses in Final Fantasy 16 would not have compromised the game at all. And I guarantee when this game comes out on PC, whenever this happens, I guarantee that there will be a mod that adds in damage types, weakness, gives enemies resistances and different magic weakness, right? And it won't compromise the game. Obviously, modders are going to balance it, right? Obviously. But I don't think if a modder can do it, then a developer could do it. And I'm just not sorry about saying that. The game is just lacking RPG mechanics. Traditional RPG mechanics, I should say, which is stats. The last thing I'll talk about is the presentation so far. Fantastic. I don't have anything negative to say here. I've seen a lot of talk about the game having a lot of cutscenes, but I think they've been, I don't want to say dishonest, but as an example, Final Fantasy has always been a very story heavy game, but because now it's in the modern day, it's more highly presented to the player. You're not scrolling through text boxes anymore. So nothing's really changed, just how it's presented to the player. People don't understand this. Also, a lot of the cutscenes that I've experienced so far have been interactive cutscenes. So what do I mean by that? They're QTE, like the cinematic strikes, evade. That's fine. I don't see any issue with that. If you have an issue with it in Final Fantasy XVI, then you have an issue with it in Asura's Wrath. Literally any CyberConnect 2 game that they do this in. And they do it in pretty much all of their games. If you criticize FF16 for this, then I better not see any of you dick riding CyberConnect 2 games. Overall, so far, I've just been enjoying the game. Any of like the flaws I've brought up so far, a lot of it could be just boiled down to the game is different. Nothing I've said that I've like been negative about is me saying, oh, the game sucks because of this. Like, yeah, I can say that I don't like the lack of RPG mechanics. I think it's disappointing. But at the same time, I understand that the game is designed a different way. But also, Final Fantasy as a franchise has been so, let's be honest, FNC or Fabula Nova Chrysalis has not been a positive for this franchise. Simple as. I don't want to say it killed the franchise, but public perception has not been great. And I think that this game, so far, is playing it too safe in like the mechanics, on like the RPG side of it. But hopefully this game is a success, and Final Fantasy 17, 18, 19, 20... all these future mainline games, whoever helms those games, I hope that 16 gives them the confidence to make their own universe, take risks for designs they want for their game. And that's the good thing about this game, is it's a reset essentially from like the past 20 years of Final Fantasy. So yeah, these are my early impressions so far, like TLDR or TLDW. Game's good, disappointing in some areas. That's it. I can't really say much more than that. I'll have a full review out when I've beaten the game. I will talk about this a bit more in depth. I'll probably write like a really long, but see you next time. Peace.